Hey, welcome to Vance Tried It. Today we're going to be making some biscuits and gravy casserole. And we're going to start off with some homemade biscuits. That's right, homemade biscuits and gravy casserole. Now, you can make this with homemade biscuits, Biscuit biscuits, or canned biscuits. But if you want the best results and the best casserole, you need to do some homemade biscuits. It's kind of like this. Homemade biscuits is here. Biscuit biscuits is here. Canned biscuits is here. Is it edible? Well, sure. Does it save time? A little bit. Is it as good? Not even close. So let's get going on our biscuits. We're going to make some really simple biscuits. This is just 3 ingredients. First off, we're going to start with 2 cups of self-rising flour. So we're going to put that in here and we're going to give it a good whisk. It's going to get it all separated out, and this is going to make it airy. This is in lieu of sifting it. We're going to be whisking it. And just like that, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, that is done. And to that we're going to add 1/2 a cup of cold butter. Now, it needs to be cold, not room temperature, but it doesn't have to be ice cold. And here's the thing with these biscuits. We can take as much time right now as we want, because none of this is going to matter. We're just mixing this in. You're not going to hurt your biscuits. Now, once we start putting our 3rd ingredient in here, then we're going to be really crunched for time and effort. So this part right here, we're not going to worry about it. You can just take your time. I'm just using one of these pastry cutters, and it's basically built just for this, to kind of cut the butter into pastry. And so you don't have to cut big chunks like I'm doing. Actually, it doesn't even work as well like that, but sometimes I get a little anxious. I get a little in a hurry. And so if you just want to do kind of smaller chunks of it at a time, and then just work this butter into the flour. And we're really wanting to have kind of really, really small pieces of butter in here. So anytime, anywhere you see a larger piece of butter, just use your little tool here. You can do this with a fork. You could use your whisk if you wanted to. It's not going to be quite as strong, but we're looking to just really work this butter, get it cut up really nicely. And like I said, we don't have to be in a hurry on this part here. We're just getting it all mixed together really nice. And we just want little pebbles of butter in here. So as we go along, we're just looking for any extra big pieces, and then knock it off of our cutter here. Just like this. And so, hey, while I'm doing this, y'all could do me a big favor, actually. You could just go down into the comment section, leave me a comment. What is your favorite type of breakfast casserole? And so let me know what you like in your breakfast casserole. Also, go ahead and like this video if you would. Subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell. That way you'll get notified whenever new videos come out. And so we are pretty much done here with this step. And you can kind of see that it's really fine. You can go in here now with your hands if you want to and just look for any of the bigger pieces. Is that actually, you don't even need to use a fork or a pastry cutter. You can just do this all with your hands if you want to. And we're just kind of sift it through finally with our hands. Make sure there's no big pieces. We're good to go there. And now to this, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of milk. We're just going to pour this whole thing in there all at once right there. And now this is where you have to be careful, because if you over mix these biscuits, they're going to be tough, and we don't want tough biscuits. We want really tender, we want fluffy biscuits. So we're just wanting to get this combined, and what we're really looking for is we're really looking just to get it to this point where we don't see any loose flour in here. I'm just going to take our spoon and move the flour around just like that. Get all that flour mixed together just like that. That's really all the more it needs to be mixed. We are 100% just going to where it is all combined. Now that doesn't mean we're done, but that means that is step number 1. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to actually fold this right in the bowl. So we're just going to take it a couple times and we're going to fold it over. Just fold it over. You can see what I'm doing here. You're just going to fold it over, push it down, fold it over, push it down, fold it over, maybe 3 or 4 times. It doesn't take a lot. And that's it. That's all we're going to do for that. And now what we're going to do, let's get some of this out of the way. We're going to take a piece of parchment paper, and we're going to put a little bit of flour down here on our parchment. Just spread that out like that. Nice and simple. And now we're going to take our biscuit dough, and we're going to put it right in the middle there, like that. Let's put this over here, and just make sure I have enough flour on my hands to get everything off of my spoon. Just like that. And now remember, we have already folded it. We folded it while it was in the bowl. So we don't need to fold it anymore. Now we're just going to press it out just like this. If we can get it kind of square, that will help us a little bit. And we want it to be about, a 1/2 inch maybe thickness, and kind of even here. You don't need a rolling pin, anything like that. You can just use your hands here and push it out. Try to get it even, just like that. Just that simple. And now, I'm going to grab a pizza cutter, because we're going to actually cut this with a pizza cutter. Okay, so now we're just going to cut this into squares, just like this. Probably about 1 inch or so. And you can use a knife, you can use a butter knife, you can use a butcher knife, pastry knife, however you want to do it. And they don't have to be all exactly the same size. Just want them to be kind of close. And just like that. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to push these off to the side just a bit. Now I have my casserole dish here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about half of these and I'm going to put them in this casserole dish. Just spread them out. You don't really want them touching or anything. And I went ahead and I greased this up. I use avocado spray. That's what I like to use most of the time is avocado spray. And we're just going to kind of take about half of these and put them in here. That's probably about half of them. I didn't count them, but that's probably about half of them. And now, we're going to bake these in a 375 degree oven for about 10 minutes. We're just going to partially bake them so that when we put all the rest of it together, we'll be ready to go. So I'm going to get these baked up and then I'm going to get set up for the next step of this casserole. Okay, so we're ready to move on to step 2. We're going to be making the gravy for our biscuits and gravy casserole. And so what I have here is a heated up pan. So here's the thing, if you will heat your pan up before you put your sausage or whatever it is you're going to be browning in there, then you're going to find that you're not going to stick as much as you would normally. So don't be afraid to get that skillet a little bit warmed up. And it will start cooking right away. And you also want it pretty hot. You want it really to start off hotter than you probably think you want it. Because as soon as you put that sausage in there, it's going to start to cool off that pan pretty quick. So, what I like to do is I like to use a potato masher whenever I am browning hamburger or sausage or really any kind of ground meat. That just gets it nice and broken up for me. Just like that. And you're going to find that a little bit's going to stick to the pan. It's not going to be bad. So you're going to get a little bit stuck to the pan. And that's actually a good thing. To have a little bit of stickage. You don't want it to completely stick, but to have a little bit of pieces stuck to the bottom of the pan, that's actually going to make it really good because when we put the milk in here for our gravy, then that's going to release all that cracklings that are in there, and that's going to add a lot of really good flavor to our pan. So while that sausage is browning up, we're going to go ahead and fix up the eggs. We're going to be using 6 eggs in here. Let me just rearrange some of this stuff a little bit. Goodness gracious, I barely cracked that one. There we go. These are some tough eggs here. You know, it's kind of interesting because, you know, I buy them from the store and I find it really inconsistent. Some batches of eggs I get, the shell will be really thin. Like almost paper thin. And really hard to really do anything with just because the shell just breaks off into the egg so much. But then some of them, like this batch, the shell is nice and thick, and that probably has something to do with just the different chickens that they're coming from, I guess. But that's just a guess because I don't really know. I'm going to wash my hands up a little bit. Give our sausage a good stir. We're just really wanting to get this browned up, just where we don't see a whole lot of pink left in there. Is kind of what we're wanting on our sausage. This. You can see kind of what it's looking like. It's getting there for sure. And so anything that you see pink, just try to kind of get that back to the surface of the pan so it'll be closer to the heat. So we have our eggs in here, and to that we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of milk, and we're just going to whisk this up. And just because we need a little extra flavoring in there, we're going to put a little Cajun seasoning right in here with these eggs, just like that. And whisk that right in there. And those are done. We'll just set that off to the side. And our sausage is nice and brown. Now, if I was just making sausage gravy, I would go ahead and go a little bit longer. It's not completely brown. There's still some little pieces of pink. So if I was making actual sausage gravy, just to have biscuits and gravy, I would keep going. But since we're going to be putting this in the oven, we're going to be cooking it in the oven, all that sausage is going to cook up. And really what I was wanting to do is brown it up and render the fat off. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take 4 tablespoons of flour, and we're just going to put that right in there with the sausage. And now we're just going to cook it in here. And really, we're basically making a roux in here, right in here with our sausage. And there was not a lot of grease from the sausage there in the pan, but don't let that panic you, because look, we mixed all this sausage up. We left the sausage in there on purpose because all over that sausage was fat. So there was fat stuck in all the little corners and crevices of this sausage, and so it is just fine. You're seeing that flour. As you can see, there is no white, there's no flour in there left over. I mean, there's still flour in there, obviously, but you can't see it. It is all starting to incorporate in with that fat from the sausage. And so that's what we're doing there. And when we have all that done, then it's really simple. We're just going to go in with the milk. Now this is 4 cups of milk. This is going to create a little bit of a thin gravy, and that's what we want because we're going to be putting it in the oven, and it's going to thicken up, because the more you cook gravy, the more it thickens up. And so we're going to start off with it being a little bit thick. So as you see, I did 1 tablespoon of flour for every cup of milk. If I was just making biscuits and gravy, and we were going to make this into a casserole, I'd have done 2 tablespoons of flour for every cup of milk. And so you just have to adjust it a little bit from what you would normally do, so that you don't have just this super thick sausage glump of a casserole. That's not what we're wanting. We're wanting it when it comes out. We want it to be the consistency that it would be if we were just doing sausage gravy. Okay, so we got that. Now, our biscuits have been in there. We're going to take them out. They are partially done. So as you can see, they just got a little bit done. And we're just doing that for the ones on the bottom. We're going to put the rest of them on top. We don't need to par bake those because they're going to be on top. But these ones that we're going to put the stuff on, we wanted to par bake them. Now, like I said, you can do this with homemade biscuits. That's really what I recommend because these are going to be better than anything else. But if you want to use like Bisquick or some sort of a biscuit mix you buy at the store, that's probably not too bad. And so you can do that. And I would say with biscuit mix, you're probably going to also want to go ahead and par bake the ones that are on the bottom. But if you're doing out of the can, you don't need to do the par bake. You can just put them in there. And you're going to want to like probably cut them up into quarters. And so that is an option. Like I said, I would really only use that option if I was in a real big hurry and just really did not have the time at all to really make a really good sausage and biscuits gravy. It's not that I hate canned biscuits. I've eaten a lot of canned biscuits, but I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old and curmudgeon-y. But I don't think they're as good as they used to be. So I've noticed that with a lot of products, and part of what makes it think that it's real and not just my imagination is sometimes I've seen it happen like when it happens. For instance, I used to eat a Fiber One bar every morning. That was my breakfast every morning for years, literally. And then we bought Fiber One. It was the same old Fiber One, or at least they didn't tell us it's any different. But man, when you ate these new Fiber Ones, they were different. There is no doubt that these Fiber One bars were way different. They changed the formula. They didn't tell us. They didn't tell us why or what. But they weren't as good. They were grainy. And so, I don't know what it is. Sometimes maybe it's regulation. They have to abide by new regulations because, we as a nation, in my opinion, are way over-regulated. But sometimes it's just about profit margin. And they cut corners and cut processes and go with a lower quality food in their products. So I think that is what's happened to biscuits over the years, in my opinion. So I think canned biscuits are not as good as they were 10, 15 years ago. At least when I tried them, they seem to have a different flavor. Maybe my palate is just more sophisticated, but it just seems to me that it's really not quite as good. So we're going to go ahead and let this cook up. We want to bring this to a kind of a gentle boil. And while that is coming to a boil, we're going to take our eggs and we're just going to pour our egg mixture in here right over these biscuits. Now, look, if you are a big fan of cheese, and I typically am a big fan of cheese, you can certainly put cheese in here. Now, I didn't put cheese in here because I don't think cheese goes with biscuits and gravy and eggs. I just wouldn't do cheese with it. But you can certainly put cheese in there if that's what floats your boat. Not going to tell you, don't do that. So, shouldn't take long for this to start boiling. And just as soon as it starts boiling, we want to put it in to our casserole. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just scraping all that stuck on stuff from the bottom of the pan, getting it floating around in there. Because there's going to be some good stuff floating around in there. And we're already starting to get a little gravy action going. Like I said, don't expect this to look like the gravy, like what we would want it to look like if we were just doing biscuits and gravy. Okay, here we go. Boom, just like that. We have started to boil. That's what we were looking for. And now we're just going to turn this off, and we're just going to pour this in here, and just like that. Now, let me get all the goodness out of here. Goodness. Woo, doggies. Okay, we are almost ready to oven this. We just have one final step. We're going to take these biscuits that we made from scratch right at the beginning, and we're just going to start dumping these in here. Just right on top here. And they're going to submerge down in there a little bit. That is fine. They don't need to float. We're not really purposefully submerging them. We want them pretty close to the top. So we're not going to be worried if they start to sink down. And just find the good spots that look like they need some more biscuit. Bing, bang, boom. Just like that. Got that done, and done. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in our 375-degree oven. And we're going to put it in there for about 35 minutes. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it on this extra baking sheet because this pretty much fills up this pan and it could start to boil over a little bit and it could start to kind of splash out, and we don't want that all in the bottom of our oven because then we just got to do extra cleaning. So we're going to do it like that and get it in there. Now you got to be really careful here because like I said, it is pretty liquid right now. But after 35 minutes, that gravy is going to thicken up, those eggs are going to cook, and it's going to be a delicious biscuits and gravy casserole. So I'll see you in about 35 minutes. Okay, our casserole has been cooking for 35 minutes, and we're ready to pull it out, give it a try. Ooh, here we go. Oh, would you look at that? It looks and smells delicious. I'm not even going to let that bad boy cool off. We're just going to get right in there and get some of this out of here. So you can see you have the creamy gravy in there, and that is just the consistency that we're looking for. Ooh, let's get a little bit more than that. Here we go. Yeah. Got the eggs cooked up really nice in there. Woo. Let's give it a taste. Y'all can see what it looks like there. Let's make sure we get a bite. I'm going to get some of this top biscuit with it. Got some bottom biscuit. Got some top biscuit. Got some gravy. Got some eggs all rolled up into one delicious bite. Here we go. Oh, wow. Okay, look. This homemade biscuit is delicious. That really sets it off. And the gravy has set up really nicely, just like what I was saying. You want it a little bit thin going in because as it's cooking, it's going to set up. And this is just the consistency that we want for gravy. And we have the eggs cooked right in. And let me tell you something. Coming up on Christmas, you have your family over, throw this in the oven and cook it for your family. They're going to love it. If they like Biscuits and Gravy. They will love this breakfast casserole. Hey, I tried it. You should too.